This is Kyle McCord, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys, are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something, girl. You tweeted your running back ranking. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. You jumped up and
That's Austin Nace.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncork for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out! Justin Fields! Hello, Columbus! 51 yards!
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Got to continue. I got Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies to Kirk Street. We ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. We interrupt your regularly scheduled program. Quinn Ewers is leaning towards skipping his senior season of high school and joining the Buckeyes program in time for training camp this fall. Your Devy Debate crew is covering every angle of this story. We've got Matt Bruning, we've got Austin Nace, and Chris Moxley are all here tonight. Austin, tell us why Ewers is considering this decision.
And anything we say here is going to be speculation as to why he truly wants to do this, because we have not heard anything from his mouth himself. But I think there is kind of a three-pronged way to look at this as possible reasonable reasons why he would be doing this. The first, injury risk avoidance. You know, we see these guys. It's why guys are opting out of their last year of college. It started with the bowl game, and then it gets more and more and more. And now you see guys doing the whole final year. They don't want to risk when there's money on the line. I think that's, at this point, you know, Mr. Felix Sharp is go get the bag. And I think, you know, avoiding injury is a big part of that. And that is my reason number two. Go get the bag. With the new NIL rules, guys can make money now. I know we're going to talk a little bit about NIL, or at least I think we're going to here in a few minutes. But, you know, Nick Saban just came out and said Bryce Young is approaching $1 million. I think if you're a high school quarterback that's worth anything, your ears perk up as soon as you hear somebody say that a starting quarterback at a major collegiate program has approached $1 million and has played all of 30 snaps. Is that how many? I don't know exactly how many Bryce Young has played. That might be more than he's played. And then the third reason, and I think we're going to talk about this a lot more tonight, so I'm not going to go too much into it. I think Ryan Day is behind the scenes pushing these buttons. And I think we'll talk, like I said, a little more about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I think realistically, those three things are all contributing to this potential decision.
Well, according to Pete Thamel's article, the Texas state legislature has a law that prevents high school students from profiting from their own name, image, and likeness. And Quinn Ewers, as you may expect, he's been approached about some deals. So he has the choice between being a senior in high school and jumping to the Buckeyes program and actually earning that money, grabbing the bag. He, again, according to Pete Thamel, he just has to take one core English class online, and he can graduate from South Lake Carroll this season in time for Ohio State's training camp. Bruning, you are as connected as anyone in the Devy community to the Ohio State program. What you heard this story, your initial reaction was what?
I apologize to all the moms, dads, and kids that listen to the show, but it's turned into, in my opinion, a clusterfuck. And I'm not 100% sure that I really like what's going on here. We've talked a lot on this show. Austin was one of the ones who really brought this up. I want to say it was on one of the after shows. I know Moxley agreed with him, and much to their surprise, I agreed with them as well, that I think Ryan Day, his approach to recruiting has always seemed to be, we don't know who's going to pan out, so I'm going to get the best of the best as much as I can, and whoever wins those jobs, they go out on the field and they produce. He's continued doing that with the quarterback class after securing 5 stars and 4 high-end 4 stars, and then recruited right behind them and right behind them and now right behind them, to a point where we were talking about this being a major issue next year, and in my opinion, not even being a major issue. Quinn Ewers comes in, he gets to get summer stuff, even if he enrolls in January, right? He gets in there, he's going to learn the playbook, he's going to do all this stuff, but I still think it would have been an actual competition. It would not have been Ewers is the first sure starter in 2022, regardless of how good Stroud or McCord goes out there and plays this year. Again, I've been on record saying I think McCord wins the job. McCord goes out there and takes the Buckeyes to the playoffs. There's no way, in my opinion, Ewers comes in there next year and just handed the job. He's got to compete and make it look better. That changes everything now. If he enrolls in the next couple weeks, it changes the future of the Buckeyes. 3 kids that are already in that program. Ewers' future, it blows up, in my opinion, the entire Ohio State program. And I think I 100% agree with Austin on what he said. Ryan Day did not see that tweet from Peter Thamel come across his phone and go, what the fuck just happened? No, he's known. He's known for weeks that this was going to happen. This was a possibility. And I think he is pulling the strings behind this. And I do think in the future, this is truly going to hurt them on the recruiting trail. I don't care how many national championships Quinn Ewers and Ryan Day win together. If they go 3 for 3 the next couple seasons, the way he's handled recruiting, I think is going to hurt him.
Austin, pulling the strings. He's got CJ Stroud and Kyle McCord there. To what end? For what reason? What's he doing? Why? What is Ryan Day doing?
I think he's now put himself in a lose-lose scenario when it comes to the how he looks to these recruits, because either you've just pushed this kid, Quinn Ewers, to come to your school a full year early, and if he doesn't get the job, it looks like you doubly screwed this kid, that you probably sat there and said, yeah, come to Ohio State, it's going to be great, you're going to compete for the starting job right away, blah, 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 and he doesn't get it. That looks bad. It looks equally bad if he brought in, CJ Stroud, high 4-star, borderline 5-star kid, then brings in Kyle McCord, same exact thing, 5-star kid, and then not only gets a commitment the next year from one of the top high school football quarterback recruits of all time, but then brings them in anyway and then plays them. No way this ends looks good for Ryan Day. We had a little bit of discussion in the Discord here before we came on. I said I had a little bit of a hot take tonight. I figured this is probably the right spot to drop it. Ryan Day will not be at Ohio State to see this current group of freshmen all leave. He is not going to make it there more than 4 years. I have said it for months. He is going to start pissing people off. He's going to start pissing the wrong people off. And eventually that is going to be so off-putting that the players there aren't going to want to play for him. At least there's going to be a divide in the locker room. And he's going to start alienating some of these high school kids that, every kid thinks they're going to play, but it doesn't take a genius to look at these scenarios that are playing out and going, holy shit, people are getting screwed left and right.
I've only been saying that since we started this show, but that's what from what I've read so far, this is almost purely a financial decision between Ewers, his family, and what he's allowed to do in Texas high school. He has a lawyer. They reached out to the organization that interprets the Texas state laws as they are applied to high school football. It sounds that they asked for some sort of opinion, and they got that answer or response on Monday that he would not be able to sign autographs for money. He wouldn't be able to take these deals that he's been approached with. And at least from what I've read, I'm only saying from what I've read, it doesn't seem like Ryan Day really has his fingers or his hands on it. But maybe, I don't know yet. Bruning, again, you're connected to that program. What are people saying behind the scenes about this potential decision?
That it was not a shock to anybody. They've known for weeks. The exact quote that I was given was some of the people in the organization have known for 3 weeks that this was going to happen. It's a month. If you correlate that back, that's right around the time that Texas decided with their NIL thing that high schoolers were not going to be able to get paid for their stuff. There's no way Quinn Ewers is just deciding to do this without Ohio State and Ryan Day knowing. There's just no way. I mean, we talk about this all the time, right? When it comes to programs in the I can't think of anything football-wise. Herm Edwards at Arizona State, all the talk that, he didn't know what was going on. That's bullshit. He knew some of the stuff. Maybe he didn't know everything, but he knew some of the stuff going on. There's no way these head coaches don't know about certain things. And when you're talking about a guy like Quinn Ewers making this decision, there is no way that Ryan Day has no idea. Like I said, I completely agree with us. Now, I don't know if I want to say Ryan Day is back there puppet mastering Quinn Ewers into doing this, but I think Ryan Day clearly has been involved in this decision. And Quinn Ewers reached out to him and was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Ryan Day's like, no, go ahead. Stay in school. Be a good little boy. Stay in school for 8 more months, and we'll see you in January. No. Ryan Day was like, yeah, do whatever you got to do. Let's get you up to Ohio State. Let's get you paid $1 million, and let's see where that takes us.
Austin, you mentioned Bryce Young in Alabama approaching 7 figures for his NIL deals. I think that's just the starting point looking forward. Ewers is reportedly been approached by a company called Holy Kombucha about a potential deal that includes cash and equity in the company, and there are several other offers, including, quote, national brands. You're talking about one of the highest rated quarterback recruits we've seen in some time, and potentially starting at Ohio State. I would say $1 million is the floor. I would say $1 million is the floor. And let's not forget the backdrop. I don't think anyone's going to have an objection to Quinn Ewers trying to get his money. But this is all about money. We just had Texas and Oklahoma leave the Big 12 because they wanted to make $35 million a year and not just $25 million a year for their participation in a television deal. So Quinn Ewers joins the Ohio State program. He's got another year to invest that money and earn interest, or to start earning interest. Ryan Day might absolutely have his hand in this, but I mean, we're talking about earning a potential lottery ticket as an 18-year-old kid. Let's talk about the football angle here. Assuming that Quinn Ewers enrolls at Ohio State, what percentage chance would you put on him starting to begin the season? And what percentage chance would you put on him starting at some point during the season?
Who you asking?
Either one of you. Go ahead.
I'll go first because I know me and Austin disagree with this. So the best comparison I could come up with on something like this is the guy that he's compared a lot to, and that's Trevor Lawrence, right? Go back to, I believe it was 2018, Trevor Lawrence, Kelly Bryant. Lawrence comes in, Kelly Bryant, the unquestioned starter. Halfway through the season, Lawrence is given the starting job by Dabo Swinney, goes on, and they end up actually winning a national championship. Why? Because Trevor Lawrence was better than Kelly Bryant. I am not saying that Quinn Ewers is not better than Kyle McCord, CJ Stroud, Jack Miller. Little bit different, though. Trevor Lawrence got in there in January. We're talking about Quinn Ewers coming in, even if it's in the next week, 3 weeks away from the college football season kicking off, not training camp starting up, and we got a month before. No, 3 weeks before the season starts, before you're on the field against Minnesota, literally a month from tonight. You are on the field in Minnesota against them. He's not going to start the season. I don't care how transcendent he is. As I put in the Discord, he's not a god. He's good. Texas is one of the better high school regions that you can go against. Do we know that he can read a defense? I assume Ryan Day has given him a playbook, so he probably knows some of the Ohio State playbook. Go ahead.
I was about to ask you, how long ago do you think he just happened across an Ohio State playbook as he was walking down the street?
I know for a fact there's a recruit that had the Ohio State playbook, or a good portion of it, a year before they signed with Ohio State. So I have no doubt Quinn Ewers has the playbook, whether it fell on his visit and he picked it up and was supposed to throw it. I don't care how it happened. He's got it. So he
Don't
knows
they do that
the
like the
offense.
Yellow Pages thing? They just throw an
Yeah.
Ohio State playbook on like
Exactly.
your doorstep, and you're like,
Exactly.
oh,
Yeah,
another
yeah,
Ohio
yeah.
State playbook.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where, regardless, and I'm going to stick with it because I've said that I think Kyle McCord wins the starting job. I do think that he wins it. If he goes out there and he's winning games, I don't see any way Quinn starts this year unless they lose a game they're not supposed to. And in which case, then I could see a Trevor Lawrence, Kelly Bryant thing happening. But if McCord is going out there and winning games, I don't see them pulling him just to put Quinn Ewers in. What this really does is affects, if they do lose a game, I could see it happening. I don't, outside of that, though, I don't see it happening. I think this really shapes up for whatever's going to happen in 2022. And I think it's Quinn Ewers. The wording I'll put to you is, if he really does sign with them in 2 weeks, Ohio State has clearly showed who they're hitching their wagon to for the future, and it's going to piss a lot of people off.
Matthew, thank you for that long answer. Assuming he enrolls, what percentage chance would you put on him starting to begin the season?
0%.
Okay. And what percentage chance would you put on him starting at some point during the season?
5%, because I don't think they lose the game until the playoffs.
Austin.
You just want my short answer, apparently, Mr. Sharp?
No, give me your go ahead and give me your
Okay. I didn't want to get yelled at too. So here's my thing. And I think we talked about this the other day, where you can lay out the facts and then come to a different conclusion at the end of them. And I think Matt just correctly laid out the factual scenario here. My where I differ is that I think you're bringing him in at this point. He's number 2 behind whoever wins that job automatically. I think basically whatever happens between McCord and Stroud, whoever loses that job, and as much as it sucks because I love both of them, and I do love Kyle McCord as much shit as we give Matt on this show. He was my QB3 in this class. I think if he'd gone anywhere else, I'd be so happy to watch him play this year. It's going to be him, and they're going to say the loser of this competition is leaving this school. Essentially, it's going to be understood. Ryan Day's not going to sit them all down in a room and say that, but it's going to be understood. So percentage chance, I think, to start the season, I think I agree with Matt. It's 0. And I agree that if they lose a game, that's what opens the door. I'm going to give it a 30% chance that he starts at some point this season, should he enroll.
I think the chances are greater than that. I really do. To at least start one. Well, I can even see them giving him a start to a game that they think they have a good chance of winning. Because quite frankly, I think if Quinn Ewers is who we think he is, he just may give you just as good a chance of winning a game as CJ Stroud or Kyle McCord. Let's talk about that depth chart. Jack Miller's time at Ohio State seems to be coming to a close, at least as a potential starter. Kyle McCord, CJ Stroud, Quinn Ewers. I mean, broad question, but assuming Ewers enrolls, which of these 4 is still enrolled at Ohio State in February of 2022, Austin?
Yeah, I think Miller heads back home. He's from Arizona. I think he'll transfer back somewhere there. Arizona State would be a great spot for him, assuming they don't get nuked by the NCAA and Jaden Daniels leaves after this year. I think that would be a natural marriage for him. Otherwise, he'll go West Coast somewhere. I don't know exactly where. And then I think it's McCord. And I think McCord can almost write his ticket. People in the Discord today were spouting off great landing spots for him. Florida State after Mackenzie Milton is gone next year. LSU. He would. I think he's certainly a better player than Miles Brennan or Max Johnson. If he wants to go closer back home,
wouldn't that be something if you had another Ohio State quarterback go to LSU?
The next Joe Burrow.
Yeah, there are a lot of places realistically that he could go. Texas Tech would be a great spot for him. Florida could be a great spot for him, depending on what happens there. I mean, there are blue blood programs. The only schools I would say that he shouldn't go to would be Oklahoma. And obviously, he's not going to stay at Ohio State. And then after that,
Clemson.
Is there another Clemson? Probably.
Yeah,
Clemson probably. That might be it. I mean, USC maybe, depending on how they feel about Jackson Dart, they might just want to stay with their guy. But the list is much longer of places that he could go than places that I would say he absolutely should not.
I don't want to go too far, Chris, without getting you in here. I mean, this is a huge story. It has implications across college football. It has implications across campus to Canton leagues. You heard this story and your initial reaction was what?
Good for him. Do it. Get your bag, dude. He is surrounded by wealth and intelligent people. He is very well informed. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's very methodical. He's hired a lawyer. He's consulted with all the legalities of all this, right? His dad is the CEO of a petroleum services company in Texas. Like, he knows what he is doing with all of this. He is not ill-informed. He's making a decision about his future, and I'm 100% for it. Get your bag. You're going to make millions of dollars in college. And you're a great prospect on top of that. So you make millions more in pros, right? I'll say the same thing that Austin and Matt both said. Ryan Day is going to get himself in trouble. He's over recruiting. Kids are going to get pissed. They're getting passed over. It's just at some point too much. I'm not sure that he starts at all this year. Even if the starter goes down, I'm not sure that he's going to get game action behind Stroud or McCord, depending who it is. They just have him coming in August is a fairly steep learning curve, even if he's just awesome, and he is. But get your bag, dude. He's very well informed, but it's a weird dynamic, and Ryan Day's definitely backed himself into a corner.
We've definitely talked about this timeline of Stroud and McCord being there, and in 2022, we thought that Ewers was coming in there. Him coming in now just accelerates all of that, and it makes it such an interesting story. Let's talk about the fantasy campus to Canton angle. In Austin, you kind of already talked a little bit about this on Twitter. And Chris, you had a different take. How should commissioners handle it if Quinn Ewers is all of a sudden in August added to the player pool?
So I did tweet, and I don't even think it was hasty what I tweeted, to be honest. I think it pretty much encapsulates exactly how I feel about the whole situation. I said, if you're allowing people to pick Ewers up in your C2C leagues this year, you have failed as a commissioner. And I think that is in all but there's a very select few circumstances, and people were saying, what about this? What about this? And I just felt like saying, did I stutter? Did I stutter in what I said? No, I did not. The only scenario that I could see it being okay in is if A, he definitely enrolls and he does it like ASAP within the next couple of days, and B, your C2C league has not even selected their draft slots yet, and it's a startup. That is the only way, in my opinion, that it's fair, because if I'm doing a C2C startup and he enrolls, I would take him in the first round. Mr. Zero QB would take Quinn Ewers in the first round, and that would probably impact the draft slot that I selected if I had the opportunity to do so. So I think that is the only way, because otherwise it is purely, as Chris and I kind of went back and forth on, it is an access to information thing. You are rewarding somebody because they happened to be on the clock or at the top of the waiver wire or have a bit more fob than anybody else did at the moment that the news broke. And in my opinion, that is what hurts a league.
That was my first instinct, is I need to trade a player for $1 fab. For $1 fab, so I could have 101 compared to everyone else's 100.
Even beyond the Ewers pickup, that creates this waterfall where you trade for 1 and I'm trading for 2, and everybody else knows what you're doing. So you can get absurd value for your fob, and it's a race to the top. So there is just not a scenario in which, in my opinion, that is an equitable solution to the problem.
So, Austin, you said you take him in the first round.
Yes.
Who are you taking? Are you taking him ahead of any of the other guys? DJ, Bryce, Rattler, Howe?
I would take him over any college quarterback that's last name is not Uiagalelei.
Ooh, I like it. I don't disagree with you, because I think DJ has got the best upside out of everybody else. So
is that the first hot take we've gotten from Austin in however many months we've been doing this?
I don't think that's a hot take. I really don't.
I don't think it's that spicy.
Okay, all right.
Because you're going to get you're insulated with your college production as well. Like, that value is not going to drop. If he doesn't play at all this year, guess what? He's still going 3rd overall the next year in a startup draft. That you have a chance to get out if you want. In my opinion, he would instantly be insulated, whatever happens, minus him going out there and snapping in 2.
Chris Moxley, is Austin right in that Quinn Ewers just shouldn't be allowed to be taken in this year's player pool, even though he's just a player. He's just a guy out there. I mean, I don't know why we couldn't pick him up on Fab.
So I think I agree with Austin to a point. I think you have to. I don't think you can make an exception for him, I guess is my point, right? You have to write a rule into your league constitution that is it's something like any reclassification of a player during or post draft means they're only eligible for the upcoming season's draft. That is, to me, is how you handle that sort of thing, right? So I don't think you should be able to draft him right now because he is not committed to Ohio State either. He has committed to Ohio State, but he is not enrolled. He's still taking an English class. He's not on campus. Anybody allowing him to be selected is a joke of a commissioner. That's like me saying, oh, Jadon Blue he's not playing this season. Maybe he's going to reclassify as a player. And so I think that's a slippery slope, right? So would we make the same argument if it was like Cade Klubnik? Or would we make the same argument if it was any other quarterback that wasn't Ewers? So I think you have to be very blanket about how you enforce this sort of thing. But
I don't remember who the player was last season, but there was a player who was said that they could potentially enter the NFL supplemental draft, and it was a big-time player. I can't remember who it was, and it was like, what should we do if this player actually enters the supplemental draft? And Austin, the answer that most gave were they're just not eligible to be selected that year. They would essentially roll over to the following year's draft, and that's essentially what you're saying.
It was Jamar Chase, wasn't it?
I think it was Chase. Yeah.
I think it's because he opted out so quickly that there was a shot he could have jumped into the supplemental draft last year. But see, I agree with what Austin says and you, Moxley. I think you can literally write it into your bylaws as the Quinn Ewers rule. Anybody who reclassifies after a draft is started cannot be used until next year. Because it's just – I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm trying to think of who, jokingly Cade Klubnik, because a lot of us at the site don't think he's that good. If he were to do it, I really wouldn't care. So
here's an example. Here's an example because I know what's happened in some of my leagues. Braylon Allen reclassified and came into this class in some of my leagues post-draft, and he's eligible for pickup. I don't necessarily think that he should be either, but at least he's already on campus. Like
JT Daniels did it, and so did Jake Bentley in his year. I don't remember exactly when they did it in terms of timeline, but players reclassify a lot.
Yep.
So it's a can of worms if you're only excluding him. So you should just make it blanket. You can't say only Quinn. It's got to be no matter what.
CJ Stroud's value now in C2C is Matt Bruning. And I'm asking specifically about Stroud because it seems like Ewers' potential arrival or his eventual arrival was already baked into Kyle McCord's perceived value. So talk to me about CJ Stroud's value if Quinn Ewers enrolls.
I honestly don't think it affects him at all, in my opinion. I am very high on him as well. I know we talked Colin and Austin were having a little discussion before this podcast, and he was talking about how high we as a site have CJ Stroud. Now, I do have McCord ranked above him, but he's still in my top 15, I believe, at quarterback. That shouldn't change. If Quinn Ewers ends up getting the job, CJ Stroud's going to transfer, and I agree with what Austin said on McCord for the exact same with CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud can go practically anywhere and be a starting quarterback. I think that is going to happen. Like, to answer the question you asked Austin and Chris earlier, I don't think any of these three guys are going to be here next year if Ewers wins the job. Stroud's going to transfer, McCord's going to transfer, Miller going to transfer, and they're going to bring in some graduate senior quarterback to back up Ewers in case he gets hurt and tank the Buckeye season if Ewers ends up getting hurt. Because I don't see why any three of those are going to want to stay there now after everything that has happened. So for me, Stroud loses no value outside of, again, you maybe don't get to play him this year. But outside of that, you're going to get him likely for at least 1 year. I think he's going to end up getting NFL draft capital because I believe in his upside. So for me, Stroud doesn't change his value at all, in my opinion.
Austin, talk to me about this because Stroud would be next year a third-year player who was unseated by a freshman, and he no longer has the magic of Ryan Day behind him. I feel like his value takes a hit, whereas I just perceive McCord to have a fresher slate and maybe a more transferable skill set than Stroud. Am I stating that wrong, or do you disagree with that point?
Maybe, but I think the perception regardless is going to be that Ryan Day screwed him and kind of pushed him out. I think that that's going to buoy his value. Unless he just goes out the first couple. Anyway, there's a scenario where he goes out and just craps the bed in the first 2 games and Ewers takes over that way. And in that scenario, no, he probably can't write his ticket. But I think if he goes out and plays well, like we think he will, and then he still gets pushed out, I think at that point, yeah, now and other coaches are going to say that too. The opening press conference when CJ Stroud is at Oregon next year we're so lucky that, the Buckeyes, it didn't want this kid, and but we think Stroud is this amazing player, and we're lucky to have him here competing for us. That's going to be the opening line from whatever coach is sitting up there with him with a big ass smile on his face because he just lucked into one of the biggest boons of their coaching career.
I mean, at Chris Moxley, at worst, CJ Stroud is a second-round draft pick in C2C startup drafts. Quinn Ewers arrives at Ohio State in Columbus. Should he still be a second-round startup pick? Should CJ Stroud still be a second-round startup pick?
Maybe. I think it's complicated because we don't know what his decision process will be. With the transfer rule, I think it ensures that he probably maintains value because he will start where he goes. There's no question that he will go somewhere and start there. So if we think he's good, then he should at least maintain similar value. But if we think he's not very good and he's being propped up by an Ohio State system, that's a different question. So it really depends on your evaluation of him. I think second round. I mean, I'm not really someone who's drafting him in the first place. I think he's fine, but he's not really someone I target. But it does add a layer of complexity. I actually think he might be a value. I think he might fall too far. Because I think he'll start. It's the same reason I like Jalen Milroe. I think he'll just transfer and he'll start somewhere else. Same idea.
The hesitancy I have with Stroud is that he wasn't these guys who was there all along. I mean, he won the Elite 11 competition, but in recruiting, he came out of nowhere. And so, he wasn't someone that was on the radar all along. And that's kind of my hesitancy with him. Burning, should I be hesitant with McCord, nope. With Stroud, or is he that talented of a player regardless of what school he's at?
It just goes back to the discussion we were having at the beginning of this show with Ryan Day. Jack Miller was the first to sign with the Buckeyes a couple years ago. I talked a little bit about this off air. I think it was off air now at this point. I feel like I've been having these discussions all day now. Had some death in the family, a family friend, and that's really kind of thrown him off for the past couple years. He's just kind of now getting back to it, dealt with an injury. Kyle McCord was the next guy to commit. He committed before his senior year. And then CJ Stroud comes along, and all the rumors behind that are because all of the people they brought in, Marvin Harrison, Mecca, other guys that were at the Elite 11 stuff and doing different stuff around Stroud, went to Ryan Day and said, hey, you need to look at this kid. He is really good. Then Ryan Day made it a point to go out there and recruit him. So Ryan Day clearly believes in CJ Stroud. And the one thing I will say, regardless of how bad he's messed the situation up, I do believe that he is good at picking out future quarterbacks. I mean, he was the one who had to talk Urban Meyer into going and getting Justin Fields because he did not want that. Urban Meyer, had he not left, his future plan at the Ohio State University was Tate freaking Martell. Ryan Day was the one who wanted to go get Justin Fields. So Stroud, I think, is a very good quarterback. I think the difference on why he shot up boards is I believe he was also a basketball player. He has just kind of came onto the scene of working and playing quarterback like full time. He has not worked with a personal trainer like a lot of these other guys have. So I think that's why he kind of shot up, but the skill is there. The talent is there. It's a little raw because he hasn't been quarterback as long as some of these guys. But I do not think that I think you are wrong in being hesitant on him. I think all of the talent is there with Stroud.
We've seen a couple of players here recently reclassify or do something, different with their final year of high school eligibility in recent years. Jadon Blue, the very talented running back out of Texas, who's committed to Texas, opts out of his senior year. Quinn Ewers obviously looks like he's leaning towards opting out of his senior year. Tony Grimes, the cornerback at North Carolina, reclassifies and enrolls in North Carolina due to COVID and his state not playing high school football that year. I mean, Austin, Texas is the Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama of high school football. Do you see this becoming a trend where, we had JoJo Earl just come out of Texas. Do you see this becoming a trend where these Texas high school players are saying, you know what, I can get a six-figure deal by going to college. I'm going to do that as opposed to playing my senior year in high school.
For all the high school kids out there that listen to us, or the middle school kids even, if you're good at football at all and you're in 7th or 8th grade or 9th grade, start taking extra classes. An extra science class, they don't have to be difficult. You take remedial science here. You take, handwriting if it counts as an English class or something. You can take really easy classes so that you can position yourself to do what these guys are doing. I think that we will see a lot more of it. I think it's inevitable. I think the NIL made it inevitable as soon as that happened. Plus, this is just the perfect storm here with that, and the fact that you can transfer after, and there's no penalty. Why wouldn't you go to Ohio State and there's a blank check sitting there with your name on it, and you're going to make $3 million, and then you can just say see ya and go wherever the heck else you want to go like that. This, and that's why I said I still don't think that we've quite reached the the final what this is going to look like. I think there's going to be some issues to iron out. But yes, I don't see why you would not do this if you were a high school kid. I would have if I was good enough at something to do that.
How crazy is it that you got Red State, Texas, that has a rule that high schoolers can't make money off of their name, image, and likeness? I mean, you got Free Market, Texas, that's preventing high school kids from making money. I think that there's zero chance that this law is on the books in the next 2 or 3 years because you're losing Quinn Ewers to Ohio State. I think that this law is potentially going to get amended. But a thought that I had is, but Austin, I do agree with you. I do agree with you that we're going to start seeing this more often. But I wonder what the implications are for the 3 years removed from high school rule are. I mean, one of the NFL, one of their arguments for maintaining that rule is that these young players are not developed enough physically for the NFL. Well, if we see these kids at 17 years old and they're ready for college, the NFL is going to lose a leg to stand on making that argument. That's just one. I mean, I think that another argument is that high school players as a class don't have a seat at the table when it comes to negotiating with the NFLPA, but that's a whole nother legal argument. But anyway, I think the NFL loses a leg to stand on if we see Quinn Ewers and Tony Grimes and any players who opt out or reclassify or make the jump to college early, that we find them having success in the NFL. Chris, you're shaking your head.
No, I think you made a good point, right? The NFL has a lot to lose by this. And it's the same argument that you see with the NBA and players wanting to go directly from high school back to the NBA and getting rid of the 1 year rule. It's put in place almost artificially because, there's an agreement among players and the NFL, and it's a lot of business making decisions about how long players should stay in school because it benefits. There's a lot of money at stake there, right? Like you don't want Quinn Ewers in the league for 1 year. Or at Ohio State for 1 year, right? But I think what's interesting about this whole conversation is I don't know that Texas keeps this, like you said, I don't think Texas keeps this law in the books very long. California, you can make money off your likeness. What prevents somebody like Quinn Ewers, who has the money to do it, that is not an issue for him, transferring to somewhere like, somewhere in California? Not a lot. And I mean, yes, you have to uproot your family, but if you can make money off your likeness like that, you wonder how that affects certain players who have the means to do that, and like high-end recruits transferring out of state and making money off their likeness. It's just an interesting conversation with how that affects Texas football and how much that influences Texas economically as well. I think it's a very nuanced discussion.
What questions haven't we asked about this issue? What areas haven't we covered?
Do you guys really think that this is going to become more common? Because we had this discussion about Jaden Blue, right, when it happened. And we all kind of said, maybe, but no, because he's kind of like the trendsetter in his class, right? And then probably the best player. I think he got dropped down to number 2 in 24/7's ranks overall. But do you guys think this happens with lesser people? Because like Quinn Ewers can pull this off. Like a JT Tumalau last year, the number 1 overall recruit, ended up going to the Ohio State, could do it. Can a Nick Evers? Could a Nick Evers really do that this year? Because I know he's committed to Florida. Does he have the cachet to do that? I'm trying to think of like a guy who's got some name value, but maybe not up there with the Quinn Ewers. I know you really like Nick. Austin, do you think that would hurt him if he was like, no, I'm going to go ahead and sit out this year, or I'm going to enroll early at Florida? Do you think he'd be able to do that?
Are you asking our 17 and 18-year-old kids, are they going to run toward money when it's thrown at them? Is that the question?
They are. No, I know they are. I'm not saying that. Is it going to work out for everybody, though? Because Quinn Ewers can do it because of the talent he has. And Nick Evers, he's got a lot of talent. I'm trying to talk about Matt Bruning, who's committed to Arkansas and is like the 500-something prospect, and he sees he can get a $500,000 deal with McDonald's. Well, hey, I'm going to leave high school early and go. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'd take that in a heartbeat. McDonald's wants to give me $500,000. I'm all for it. But if I were to say, hey, Arkansas, I'm coming early, would they let me do that? That's my point. Because I don't know. Quinn Ewers can get away with it. Maybe a Nick Evers can get away with it. Jaden Blue, JT Tumalau. But can the 500th ranked prospect in the class, can he pull that? I don't think they can. So I don't think we're going to see a ton of it. I think you're going to see maybe the top end guys do it, but not middle and lower tier players be able to pull that off.
I think it's going to depend on coaching staff. I think there's some coaching staffs that are going to welcome it and encourage it a lot more than others. I mean, obviously Ryan Day is, but I don't know, there might be an old school coach that doesn't really get those guys anyway. That Herm Edwards does not strike me. I know he just broke all these rules.
Stanford's coach. What's his name?
Well, they don't even let people early.
David Shaw.
He came out about the big thing today about that with Bryce Young getting the supposed $1 million deal. So
yeah, that's a great one. Yes, I cannot ever imagine him allowing that to happen in his school over his dead body. I'm sure he would rather leave there.
It seems like they would do so at their peril then, because you're not going to get Quinn Ewers, you're not going to get these high 5-star recruits if that's your position. If that's your position, fine, but you're going to end up falling behind. And I have to imagine that. And remember the one and dones in college? Coach K did it, and that was nobody's going to do one and dones. Well, everybody's doing one and dones now. Duke does it, Michigan State does it, all of the schools does it. You know who doesn't do it? Northwestern. Northwestern doesn't do it. I mean, it's like if you aren't going to get with the times, then you do so at your peril.
So. But is that true? Because I'm gonna use a coach who is very successful, who does not do what a lot of these other schools do. That's Dabo Swinney at Clemson. He doesn't do early recruiting stuff. Oh, trust me, Moxley, I have the same feelings toward him, the weasel, as you do. But he doesn't do the early recruiting stuff. He does not bring in recruits for summer stuff and everything. All these other schools bring players in. They don't offer players right away. They wait. They do everything on Dabo Swinney's time. He was even, and I know some of it was misconstrued, but he was very against NIL and all that stuff. So I think, yes, it's going to hurt the David Shaws of the world, but let's also be honest. Quinn Ewers is not going to Stanford, not because he's not smart. He's just not going to Stanford. Stanford's not winning a national title. Quinn Ewers said in his interview, that's why he left Texas. Texas ain't winning a national title. I'm going somewhere that can win me a national title. I think certain coaches would be able to pull it off. I agree with you. They should be more like a Nick Saban who embraces it, why he's the greatest of all time. But there are going to be coaches I think can be successful not embracing that, because they'll still be able to get certain players and be able to coach them up and develop them.
what's really the difference between that and a player sitting out of their bowl game? Like I remember it wasn't that long ago when when everybody was all on Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey for sitting out their bowl games, and now everybody's doing it. And a bunch of players sat out their season, right? And those are high end draft picks, right? But it's not exactly the same. But not everybody can do it. But if you're a good enough recruit where you think you can go and make some money, and it has to be more than the scholar. There's like the whole rule of the scholarship, and you lose it after you cross a certain threshold. It's a little more complicated than that, right? But if you think you can get that money, like, does it matter? Like, I don't think coaches care as much now that we've seen so many players do what's best for them, i.e., like opting out of bowl games and sitting out a COVID season. And a lot of those guys are high end guys, but some of them aren't. And so I think if you think you can get money, I don't think coaches are that. I think they get it, even if they don't agree with it. Like, I think Dabo gets it, even if he doesn't agree with it.
We love college football. We love the storylines. This is a big one. Quinn Ewers leaning towards skipping his senior season and joining the Buckeyes program in the fall, ready for training camp. We're going to be tracking it all right here at the Devy Debate. But that's going to be our show for tonight. Let us know what you think. You can email us at DevyDebate at Gmail. DevyDebate at Gmail, at DevyDebate on Twitter. Jump in our Discord, campus2canton.com, and we will see you guys next week.
Devy Delight.
Well, I mean, I would do that next week because I felt like tonight was different, so that's why I just cut it off there.
You didn't even give the Kirk Herbstreit.
No, because it's like a different show.
Kirk would never have sat in the background and let us shit on his Ohio State Buckeyes for 45 straight minutes.
Yeah, very true.
It's like this is like a different episode. So,
all right, do you guys want to record the Big Ten episode now? Then roll it right now.
I'll stop doing my notes on it. So
I have zero prep done.
Me neither. It was like, I mean, I would have gotten to it, but today was not a good day. Today was not a good day. Like I have to do something tomorrow that I was expecting someone else to do. And so, now I have to actually prepare for doing that thing. So.
Austin, was today your first day in the office?
Today was my first day in the office since March 6th, 17th last year.
So it was mine too. I was supposed to go in yesterday, I didn't go in, and it was my first day since January 19th of last year.
Holy crap. How'd you get away with having January through March off?
When we moved, I went remote for my previous job, and then I got a new job. And so I got the first day that my job went remote was the day I started in my current job. So I've never been to the office. I've never met any of these people face to face. And so today was my first day, and it was really weird.
Were there a lot of people in there?
No, not really. Maybe, I don't know, like 30. I work in a building that supports like 4,000, and there were probably like 300 people there.
Yeah.
Total. Nobody wants to go back into an office. I know.
So I work in the big building when they filmed the second Batman, where like that Pittsburgh
nice.
that Pittsburgh game, like that big castle building that's like all plate glass, that's like black. I work in that building, and there was like nobody there today. Yeah, it was.
It sucks being in the office. It sucks.
Every day, never stopped.
I can't imagine.
I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me. I get left alone. I listen to podcasts all day. Can't complain.
Well, that's the nice thing. I can listen to podcasts when I'm not in meetings now. Like earlier, I was just like always I couldn't really, but now I'm just grinding away because I actually have to be doing stuff at work. I can't lollygag as much.
See, I'm the piece of shit that leaves one earbud in. It's just like I'm waiting on a phone call, and then I'm just listening to the podcast as we're having a very pointless meeting.
Do you have AirPods?
No, I don't even know what they're called. They're Bluetooth headphones.
Oh, they
I
are
don't have
wireless, though.
AirPods.
Okay.
Yeah. Bluetooth
I was
ones.
just
Yeah, I've got
picturing you
one.
with like these headphones on, like
No,
just sitting there like this.
no. I've got one. I don't use them. I don't know. I guess I could connect them to my computer. I like having these. I just feel like I hear better with them.
Yeah, I tone out all the other sounds with these.
I noticed Austin can shout in his microphone, and he doesn't peak. Because he said, when he was talking about Ryan Day, he shouted about something, and it doesn't. I gotta get my microphone.
I'll let you know what the setup is if you're looking for one, Felix.
Well,
but I think you
am, but
one in mind, right?
Yeah, I already have one in mind.
Which mic are you getting?
It's the R. I forget. It's the RE. Oh, what is it called?
Oh, it's gonna really suck.
Electro Voice RE20. It's what they use on ESPN. If you watch ESPN radio, it's what they use. It's what RJ Young uses. It's a pretty old mic, but it's a Electro Voice RE20.
Oh, they have it on.
And it's only like that. Your microphone is 400. The Electro Voice is only 449.
Is that the real classic looking one? Somewhat.
It's silver.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Any ESPN radio show, that's what they use. Yeah.
What are you going to use in terms of a cloud lifter for it then?
I actually have that. I have a whole Google Doc with all the equipment that I need and how much it costs.
Well, you're only 6 episodes away now.
Oh yeah,
you said you were going to do it at 50. Today was 44.
I think we would make it.
Dang, y'all have done 44. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we've done more than 44 if you talk about the draft ones and all the extra stuff. Just strictly Devy debate. Yeah, today was 44. Because I went in and changed all the headlines really quick while we were in the intro.
It is a Cloud Lifter CL1 inline preamp.
So
go ahead, Matt.
I was gonna say before the Quinn Ewers news, I don't know if it's gonna change or not. You know that weekend we're supposed to be in Canton is the week that Ryan Day said he's gonna announce the starting quarterback too.
We can do podcasts from.
Oh yeah, I'm bringing all my stuff. I'm bringing all my stuff too. If you guys want to do something, I figured we could do something from the booth.
I figured that we would. I figured that we would podcast from our booth.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I was just telling Austin before the show, I just bought a big USB adapter thing. So if everybody brings I don't know how well that worked with Austin, so I know he had to get the cloud lifter thing and everything. But if everybody has like USB cords and everything with their mics, I'll bring that with me. Everybody can plug into one computer and we can all literally podcast off one computer. You don't have to have like each of us set up on a different computer and all that other stuff, depending on how you guys want to do it.
That sounds good. I'm planning on bringing all my stuff anyway, so I'll have everything. And
because I think if Felix is going to bring that one camera, I've got I would assume it has some kind of. You were talking about you bought some camera for the videos stuff that we're going to do.
I bought a wireless microphone. I bought
gotcha.
What do you call it? This thing that you put a camera on, but it's just for a camera phone.
Okay, gotcha.
What is it called? A tripod. I bought a tripod. I bought a wireless microphone. So we can do that. So because people who capture audio with their camera, it depends on how close they are. First of all, the audio doesn't sound as good. We can have somebody recording and be across the street, and it will pick up the audio with the wireless microphone. So. I figured, for the preaching stuff, that's what we would need.
Oh,
and then we could have more than one person recording the camera, and then we would just sync the audio. I mean, that's not that hard. Oh, thanks, Jay. We had a lot of people tuning in today.
That's a good question, Jay. I'm pretty sure the booth's inside, right?
Yes, it is. Everything's inside the conference center. So someone brought up a really good question. We didn't even answer it. I'm pretty sure the answer is correct. I don't know if you're still here, Tupac. So Ewers is 2024 eligible now.
Yeah.
Yep. Assuming he enrolled, yes.
Yeah. So if you're still here, Tupac, yes, he is. I didn't even see that comment, but that
So
changes. That's the Kyle McCord class.
That's the Kyle McCord.
If he enrolls, that's a good
Yeah.
Buckner.
Yep.
I mean, it's Caleb Williams.
Yep.
McCarthy. Jake Garcia.
That's the piece that this class needs.
Jumps to the top of it.
Yeah.
It's got really good depth. Like it's way deeper.
You got different types of players too.
There's a lot of players that could be really good, but I don't think any of them are going to stand up to Ewers. If he does commit, he's going to be the clear 1-1 in that draft.
After Drake May, yeah.
I did not read that.
That's what I talked about, Austin. The eyes rolling to the back of your head when we were talking with Colin. That's what I was talking about.
I saw that question and I just read it. I didn't realize that was the question. Maybe I didn't see. Maybe I saw this OJ the Deuce Maker question.
Which we answered his question.
Yeah. Which we answered that. Then I knew that we would answer that in the course of the show. I wish I would have saw that first one. They asked a question before we even went live.
I didn't even see it. I thought it was Jay or someone who usually gets in there ahead of time and was commenting something on there about Kirk Herbstreit, so I didn't even pay attention to it. Yeah, Luke, yeah. Oh, that's right. He said he wasn't going to be there this week anyways. He missed a great show.
Are you seeing in your leagues people trying to pick up Quinn Ewers? I don't know why I just said Quinn. Are you seeing that at all?
No, I mean, in all the ones that I'm in, everybody asks as soon because someone dropped that link in every single chat I'm in. It's like, so how does this work? And all the ones that I'm a commissioner of, I said the same thing Austin did right away. I was like, he's not available. End of story. Don't care what happens. Don't care if he signs with Ohio State tomorrow. He's not available. He's available in 2022.
I agree.
I'm pretty lucky that actually all the leagues that I'm in are commissioned really well. Like there was never really a doubt in my mind in any of my leagues that the commissioner would allow it. Shout out to the program guys, Shaq, and then I don't know if you guys play in any of Brock's leagues at Chop and KC. I play one that's definitely he's the only commish. It's actually the one that gave me the inspiration for the 2014er that I'm doing, and then he's helping run this one with the Devy IDP grind guys as well. Teach Ben just popping in here.
Yeah, I saw that.
Damn, I knew I should have left a bench spot open in case.
That's what. No, he was the one. So what I was laughing at, by the way, was Teach posted a thing about me making a pick in the middle of the show, and so I posted. I saw that. Okay, yeah, I saw Felix look at his phone, and then he started smiling and laughing. I was like, I bet he just read what I said about him.
I did read.
That's why I started laughing.
How did you guys feel? Can I ask how you felt about? And we got another. We'll get your question, Rob. Can I ask how you guys felt about doing a show with no show sheet? I
thought it was fine.
I thought it was fine too.
This was fine because it didn't require any statistical.
Yeah, that's the only thing I care about a show sheet on is if you're like, hey, I'm like, okay, because Mox is going to come decimate me like the first show if I get this off by one number. So let me make sure that I get these exact stats right. Is there an actual precedent for a program signing too many highly rated players at one position and then it hurting their recruiting, or is this just theoretical over recruiting catches up today? I don't think there's a precedent because nobody else has done what Ryan Day has done. And I don't know if you were listening earlier in the show, Rob, but I'll let you take it, Austin, because you were kind of the first one that brought this up.
Yeah, I mean, even Nick Saban, for as successful as a recruiter as he has been for 15 years, he never really overloads at one position. Like you saw that the 2020 receiver class, he really didn't go get anybody. So 2021, they went and loaded up. And if you go look at the 2022 wide receiver rankings, guess which school really isn't hanging around at the top of it? Alabama. Because Nick Saban understands the value in, even if you're not, he doesn't get, he's not bringing you in to start right away, but, you come in, you sit for a year, 2 max, but I think usually you're competing that second year. and you have to have loyalty to these guys. Swinney doesn't do it, even though he could.
Yep.
Saban doesn't do it, even though he could. And I don't even think they make because I was kind of getting an argument with it about Matt Geiger, I think, in our Discord the other day. I think these coaches just understand that you don't do that. Like they aren't offering. Like if Quinn Ewers called Saban, sure, he'd be like, okay, come on over. But he's not like texting him all the time.
Yeah.
And, going to a bunch of flying out on Friday nights to see his games and then coming back to Bama the next day for theirs. And like they're not pushing it. And Day is.
Yeah.
Day is pushing it with all of these guys.
He really isn't presidented. Like I cannot think of another example.
And the thing that drives me crazy about Day is because I remember when we first had this conversation, I did defend him somewhat on the wide receiver one, right? Because G. Scott has said they've told me everything up front. They've never lied about anything, about who they were recruiting, other players they were talking to and possibly offering to. So they knew. But that still, I think, Rob, doesn't help you in the recruiting if you're constantly bringing in the top talent at every, because you're just then pushing people out, pushing people out who are assuming. And maybe that's their fault for assuming, but they're assuming that they're going to get a shot to at least play at this university, and then that's not going to happen.
And quarterback,
you guys
especially,
were all
is such a tough one.
You guys were jumping down my throat about when I was saying you have to blame the coaches for over recruiting and not telling the players that.
So that's where I have an issue with what you said, though. They all say that they were told everything up front. I agree with both you guys that they're over recruiting, but the coaches aren't lying to them. Like Ryan Day's not going in and saying, oh, hey, G. Scott, we're not going to recruit Julian Fleming, Caleb Burton, JSN. They know ahead of time that they're doing that. So I don't think that's the right thing to do, but they know ahead of time that that's happening. Like McCord and them
they know ahead of time that they may never play at this school that they're excited about going to.
No.
I mean, no, but I also think that goes to something you mentioned earlier.
Full disclosure. That's full disclosure.
You think you can beat anybody out. Like, let's be honest. If you were to put a microphone in front of CJ Stroud or Kyle McCord, maybe not Jack Miller, maybe right now they would say, I'm going to beat out Quinn Ewers. I don't care if he shows up next week. Whether that's true or not, they're going to say that. I would say that, and I'm not a high-end level competitive athlete. If you truly believe in yourself, wherever you're at, you're going to say, I'm going to beat out whoever the fuck you're bringing in behind me. So I think that they believe that they were going to play. It just didn't work out that way.
I don't think full disclosure, Felix, for these guys is that you have to say that you might never play here.
Yeah.
I think full disclosure is you'll compete for a job. But I also think it's just malpractice and negligence to put those kids in that position in the first place as a coach.
Speaking of malpractice, when I'm analyzing a case, I give a percentage chance of winning, a percentage chance of, even if you lose, how much fault is going to be apportioned to you versus another party. I mean, that's full disclosure. I just saying that, we're going to the best man will play. I don't know.
It's like, I don't want to make him sound like a villain because that's not fair.
Oh, thanks, Jay. I appreciate that.
No, he's a villain. Ryan Day is a villain.
So I agree. He's basically playing on athletes' emotions, thinking that they can succeed no matter what and beat anybody out for the job, knowing that he's over recruiting at the position, saying it's going to make me look good because I'm going to have the most talent. I don't really give a shit whether my 4-star gets beaten out by these 3 other 5-stars that I have. Like, I think it's super selfish what he's doing. I think that just makes him like like coach of men almost. Like, I know it's like a stupid term.
I don't really want to defend Ryan Day right here, but just throwing this and playing devil's advocate, because I do agree with you guys, and I do think in the end this is going to come back and bite him in the ass and Ohio State. And whether he's here in a couple years or not, like Austin said, this could have ripple effects in the future. You're talking, I don't think a decade, but I could see this being a issue for years down the road. But if Ryan Day does end up winning 3 national championships, 4 national championships in the next couple of years because he's doing this, I honestly don't think he is going to care because he's going to be considered up there with one of the best. So I agree it's selfish on his part, but it's something we talk about all the time with draft prospects, right? When they said like, oh, well, this person didn't do a very good job of, developing this prospect for the NFL. That's not the coach's job. The coach's jobs are out there to win. That's all Ohio State cares about is if Ryan Day wins and wins national championships. They don't care if kids get pissed off at the recruiting process. They don't care if they're still able to bring players in and they're winning. That's all that Gene Smith and the Ohio State alumni, the board members, whatever, that's all they care about at the end of the day. And in all honesty, I hate to say it this way, but that's probably all Ryan Day should care about because he's got a family to take care of. He's got a job. I don't agree with the way he's going about it, but if he's continually winning and showing success, why should he stop what he's doing?
He doesn't have to do it, though, is the issue. Like, Nick's, nobody else
That's a very
does
short-term outlook at building a program.
I agree, but that's why Jim Harbaugh did not succeed in the 49ers organization, right? Because they said that he did not treat them like men. He treated them like college athletes. There's a lot of the talk back when 49ers were having all the success, and then that thing just kind of built down to the ground. Nick Saban in the NFL as well. Why do you think he's so successful in college? Because he treats everything like he doesn't over-recruit like Ryan Day does, but it's short-term plans. He doesn't have to deal with these kids for long times. Like, I could see it hurting Ohio State in the long run, but at the same time, if he's successful, you're still going to be able to get top players to come to that school because they want to win a national championship. And say Ryan Day wins 2 in the next 3 years and he's not gone or fired like Austin talked about. You can't tell me that somebody down the road, I'm like, well, I want to go to Ohio State because I want to win a national championship, and Ryan Day is going to do that for me.
It's Urban Meyer, right? Just in a different outfit.
Yeah, but he's Ryan Day is more about the fan, which is probably a little bit of a misconception. Not even a little bit. It is the family. Urban Meyer skirts the rules. I don't think Ryan Day did. It's one of the reasons why I was not happy. I love for Urban because he brought a national championship to the Ohio State University, but I don't think he handled a lot. And I think he's a little bit overrated as a coach in general, where I would not say that about Ryan Day. I think Ryan Day is a better coach right now than Urban Meyer ever was.
What is Kyle McCord going to play a down at Ohio State if Quinn?
Yes,
Ewers
he's going to start
enrolls?
week 1.
What
He's
are you
going to
gonna
start.
do?
I don't even.
Like,
If he doesn't, I already have a whole. I have a whole
odds?
video
Okay.
ready to go. If he doesn't, if he doesn't start, respect my privacy kind of thing. I'm going to deactivate Twitter for a couple days and, respect my privacy. It's really going to be. Yeah, it's really going to be bad if he does announce that, like, while we're in the expo, because that's what everybody keeps saying. That weekend, he's going to announce his starter. Be great. We're doing a live show, and then right across Twitter, CJ Stroud announced starting quarterback week 1.
We'll be able to react to it live, which
great content.
So when does my plane leave again? When does my plane leave again? No, I mean, look, I'm just going to be honest here. My heels are so dug in here. If I backtrack, now I'm going to look like Felix with Zach Wilson when Matt Waldman came on and said Zach Wilson's not that good. And Felix is like, maybe Zach Wilson. I don't know. I'm not going to do that. I've got.
He didn't be my quarterback 3, not my quarterback 2. I mean, but the question was always Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. I always said Zach Wilson. But whatever. We're not going to get back into that conversation. So
I stand up for what I believe in. I think he's going to win the job. If he doesn't, I'll take my lumps, but I don't think realistically, and I'm obviously higher on him than Austin is, but Austin says it all the time too. Like, he is a really good quarterback, and I do believe because of how long he's been doing it and what he did in high school, he is better than CJ Stroud. I believe he should be the starter. If he doesn't win it, I still think he's going to prove me right wherever he goes next year and balls out. And
for what it's worth,
I would love for that to be LSU. I would love for that to be LSU.
Look, I'll tell you something.
I would love it to be Georgia. I would love it to be Georgia with after JT Daniels leaves.
I said the same thing to someone today. I was like, how hilarious would it be for all the shit Ohio State fans gave Kirby Smart for how dumb he was in keeping Fromm over Fields, for him to then go out and get Kyle McCord and then them meet in the playoffs in a couple years and Kyle McCord knocks them out. And I would be here for it. And I told him that. I was like, dude, if they end up matching up against each other, I will be rooting for McCord to shut down Ohio State. And that pissed off a lot of Ohio State fans. I can't remember what podcast I said that on. But I've said that before, and I'll stand by it. I root for players more than I do the players I believe in more than I do the Ohio State University. And if that were to happen, I'd be rooting for McCord.
Wow, Matt broke the thing here tonight.
I know.
All right, good night, everybody.
Nobody expects me to go against the Ohio State University.
Your emphasis on the "the" is just
I know it's fucking annoying. That's
top five most grating things that happen.
Oh, I love it. I love it too because I don't know if you guys looked at the show sheet, but I made sure I put that in everywhere I do it at. It's always the Ohio State University.
Yeah, I usually go back in. Like you wrote an article one time and put the.
Yeah, I know you did. And guess what?
Did
you go back? But did you go back and look at it? I went back in and put them all back in after you said that. I was like, nope. He told me. He shouldn't have told me that. I went back in and added it back in. Got to, right? You know. You would do it too if it was the Pitt University or whatever.
So, Rob, Matt has addressed that exact situation. He said that he would buy a Kyle McCord Michigan jersey.
I would.
I'm pretty sure
and it
you
would
said that.
Really hurt my heart. Probably have me disowned by my father, but I would do it.
Yes. Witchy, you're the best.
Although I would feel bad for JJ McCarthy because I do think he's got some upside, but then he'd be gone too.
I just love that idea of McCord starting and beating Ohio State at Ohio State.
I was going to say something, but I feel like that's probably not something I can say on air, so I'm gonna keep that to myself.
That's a after the show is over comment.
Felix and Austin know
you cannot tease like when you
I can't
tease
say
something. You have to deliver. I'm just saying you can, but you can't do that. You cannot.
Okay, fine. I won't say the exact thing. I'll just say that it's possible. It's possible that he was going to be going to Michigan to begin with, and then that changed.
He said
it was not said any. It said nothing was ever said on air, and I don't want to give any kind of stuff away unless I'm not allowed to. So.
All right, yeah, we can't
exactly. So maybe it was a possibility that he was going to go there before Ohio State. I'll put it that way.
Someone somewhere said it's a possibility. Allegedly,
it's like a game of telephone.
Allegedly.
I heard bad radio.
My brother's cousin's sister's twice removed aunt's father's sister. Way on down the line.
I'm so mad that we could not get a national presence on this show tonight. I just feel like we're good enough to deserve it.
It was
Your Herb Tree's on every week.
Well,
every week.
I didn't really want him. No, I reached out to the guy who covers South Lake Carroll for the Dallas Morning News. I reached out to Gabe Brooks for 24/7 and who was the other? I was just trying to. I was like, I tweeted at Pete Thamel, RJ Young. I was like, come on, somebody, just give us 15 minutes.
I bet they're all on Dallas Fort Worth radio right now.
We'll get we'll be there one day.
So then, conspiracy theory wise, do we think Quinn dropped to a .9999 2 weeks ago or 12 days ago because of this behind the scenes that people were aware of, or do you think it was because of not winning the Elite 11?
Elite 11. Yeah.
Elite 11. Yes.
He's a .9999.
I mean, I guess I can't say this for a fact, but I did listen to. They talked about that. It was because of the Elite 11 thing. Although, rumor has it he was injured at the Elite 11, which is why he did not perform as well. But that is why he dropped.
That's what I would say.
It was not because of 24/7 Sports. It was because of. I don't think they actually called out who, but one of the other sites dropped him, and that's what helped.
ESPN, because ESPN.
That's what dropped him in the composite. I believe they kept him the same, if I'm remembering correctly. But someone else, one of the other sites dropped him, and that's what dropped him in the composite.
So
could have been. I said I do know for a fact. I will willingly state this on record that there are people who've been saying that. They didn't necessarily say Ryan Day, so I won't say Ryan Day, but Ohio State people knew about this for 3 weeks, that this was coming.
ESPN doesn't even have Ewers as the number one player in the class.
Who is it? Is it the defensive lineman?
Yeah, it's Walter Nolan. I'm sorry, but you're not a respected recruiting service if you don't have Quinn Ewers number one. I'm sorry.
They're not respected anyways, so
you're a joke. Like there shouldn't even be a big three.
And Austin, you said that we had not heard from Quinn Ewers on this. He's quoted in Pete Thamel's
Is he? I must have missed that.
Yeah,
saying that he is leaning toward enrolling. He said that he's leaning towards enrolling.
But did he give a reason, or he just said he's leaning toward it?
He said the NIL.
Yeah, he said the NIL thing. Yeah.
The rumor has it is that he reached out to Quinn to ask him questions about the NIL because there's like Wrangler or somebody else is like interested in signing him, but he can't because of the Texas legislator.
Oh, he looks like a Wrangler. He looks like a Wrangler.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And So the rumor was he reached out to Quinn because of that, and then that's when he got that, and that's when the story kind of ran. But I don't know that for a fact. That's just
Copper said.
Well, then where's Jadon Blue? Jadon Blue can't just graduate and go back up Roshan
He may
Johnson?
not have taken.
He probably doesn't have the credits.
Exactly.
I'm scooping up Jadon Blue in my drafts, especially the ones I'm with Austin.
I will come to your house.
So I really do think that should be a requirement for leagues. Like it should be in your bylaws that a player who reclassifies after the draft starts.
Oh yeah,
should be ineligible for being picked up this season.
What?
Somebody took Mayan Williams in the Devy debate.
I almost did this past round just to be a dick.
God. Oh my God.
Blue is all of our boy, Jay. Except for
Blue.
I don't know. He's not. I don't have him over. Maybe I don't think I have him.
All of my like under the radar guys have been. I mean,
when are you dropping your video on the 2022 stuff?
It's ready. I just gotta like sit down and actually do the video, which is another thing I need to do tomorrow. What was I doing the other day that I was? Oh yeah, when Shane and Kane asked me to go on their show last minute, I was going to record it Monday, and then that threw me off a little bit. And then last night I did something. What the hell did I do last night? I did something fantasy football related last night.
Dude, that's me every day. I can't remember anything that happened within like 24 hours.
I don't know. But then, tonight had this and tomorrow.
Have you even started on your articles yet? Okay. You got like 3 weeks, bud. So I thought I'd give you a heads up now. I'm just checking.
Do I have to give you the call-in during the ownership
I've already
call
reached out.
spiel?
I've already reached out to Colin.
When's the last article you wrote, Felix? When's the last article you wrote?
Oh, he's gonna throw at it because he got picked up by Burnt Orange Nation. That he's got more credibility than the rest of us.
No, I'm not a volume shooter, but I have had this. I've got like 70% of this article done on Graham Mertz, and I'm just like, when am I?
The one you've been talking about for like 3 months.
For 3 months, yeah, and I'm working on something else, like a NPR style solo pod. Well, I mean, not a solo, but like an NPR style story, and that takes some time to like sync up, what I'm going to say in the interviews and all that stuff. So all I ask is if you could give me heads up more than a week ahead of time when you can't do your conference previews, because it's probably going to end up being me doing them. I'd appreciate it so that I can make. No, I'm just going to start writing it in the background just in case. Just in case. Make sure that it's good to go. Because I think you're one of like the last ones. Yeah, well, yeah, I'm one of the last ones. That's right.
Well, I did that on purpose, you and Colin, because I was like, I'm going to go ahead and throw them toward the end of the schedule here.
I mean, Colin was just, 30 minutes late to our podcast on. But I think that I'll get the writing bug once the season starts, because there'll be so much happening that I need to get it out.
Colin's girlfriend legitimately hates us. I'm pretty sure.
I have no doubt. I saw his face when he first came on. I don't know if we should be doing this live now. Maybe we should cut that. I don't want to.